So I think another Usopp lie has not come true, but a lot of people think it has. And I think you get a lot of red herrings with these types of lies because a very popular one we talked about very recently that had thought to have come true, but really it hadn't come true until recently in Elbaf. Also, spoilers for Elbaf. However, the lie is this. In chapter 40, during a flashback of Usopp's childhood, Usopp and the boys are chasing after a dog, and Usopp refers to the dog as Cerberus. However, people thought once we hit Thriller Bark and we see the Cerberus zombie, that was the fulfillment of the lie. However, the big part about that zombie is that it's a fake Cerberus. It's a stitched together creature, and it isn't even a full Cerberus because it has two dogs' heads and a fox's head, and that's the whole joke. However, we wouldn't meet a real Cerberus until Elbaf in chapter 1137, in which the sword of Figurlin Shamrock, a holy knight, has eaten a devil fruit of some sort, which has turned into a Cerberus. So that's the true fulfillment of the lie. However, another popular lie that I think has gone unfulfilled, but many people think has been fulfilled, is presented to us in Thriller Bark as well. Because in chapter 458, after Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji get their shadows stolen, Usopp says, "Look, there's a beautiful female swordmaster carrying lots of meat, and this was used to wake the three up." However, people think this lie has been fulfilled because way later in the time skip during Dressrosa in chapter 720, we get the formal introduction to Rebecca. Rebecca had been established as a sword fighter, and even though she is a beautiful woman, and even though she gave Luffy food, she doesn't meet the requirements necessary to which she would actually stir these three characters from slumber after getting their shadows taken. Because what is implied by Usopp telling this lie is that this character has to be a swordsman that can match Zoro. She has to be a woman that Sanji would swoon over, and she has to be accompanied by the big cartoon pieces of meat on the bone that Luffy often goes after. Rebecca is none of these things. She does not meet Zoro. Zoro does not want to fight her. She does not meet Sanji. Sanji does not swoon over her. And even though she buys Luffy food in chapter 720, the food in question are not these big pieces of cartoon meat on the bone. It is simply a lunchbox containing maybe rice and a fried food ball of some sort, but it's definitely not the big pieces of meat that Luffy often goes after or is seen with. Therefore, Rebecca cannot be the fulfillment of the lie Usopp tells in Thriller Bark. It simply does not make any sense. So I think in the future, we will come across this character at some point. Someone that Zoro does spar with or clash with and finds formidable. Someone that Sanji encounters and finds very beautiful and swoons after, and someone that perhaps sparks up a relationship with Luffy and she gives him big pieces of cartoon meat of which he enjoys. That's who I think we're going to find in the future some way, somehow, in order for this lie to be fulfilled. However, with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.